All right, good night and welcome to Mindful Live 51. Yep, Mindful Live 51 on the 9th of March. It is Wednesday, the 9th of March. Welcome to Mindful Live number 51. I'm glad you're here. We're starting tonight talking about the investigation.
All right, good night and welcome to
that
Mindful
was
Live
planned
51.
for
Mindful Live 51.
that was planned
on the
for
9th of March.
It is Wednesday, the 9th of March.
Divers.
Welcome to
The
Mindful Live
investigation
number
that was
51.
announced for
I'm
the
glad
divers.
you're here.
We're starting talking
committee was
about,
supposed to be
we're starting
formed
tonight
tonight members
talking about there was a member from the
investigation.
Good night
the
and
energy
welcome to
chamber.
Mindful
There were
Live.
two members, one
Planned
from Shell, one from
for
BP,
Yep,
etc.,
Mindful
etc.
Live
This was
planned
supposed to go in.
on
They were
the
supposed to go in there
9th of
and
March.
investigate and
Wednesday,
come
the
to a
9th of
conclusion
March.
on exactly what happened
that was
with those
announced for the
divers.
divers here.
That was the plan.
Committee was supposed
Now,
to be formed
apparently,
tonight
members,
talking
it seems
about,
like
there was a member from the
investigation.
Good night
the
and
energy
welcome to
chamber.
Mindful
There were
Live.
two members, one
Planned
from Shell, one from
for
BP,
Yep,
etc.,
Mindful
etc.
Live.
This
Now,
was
apparently,
apparently, it seems like that plan is scrapped and come to a
Wednesday,
conclusion on exactly what happened with those divers.
Yeah,
let's start that
was the plan.
YouTube, that
Committee was
Instagram.
supposed to
Instagram.
be
I
members.
didn't
It seems
access
like
that.
there was a member from
That Instagram.
Yeah,
That
members, one from Shell, one from BP.
It seems like that plan has been scrapped now, and the reason
like
the Prime
that
Minister
plan
gave
is
is the
scrapped
politicization of this issue. Now, that seems very obvious. This issue was indeed
let's
very
start that
politicized. It
YouTube.
became
That's
more and more
Instagram.
politicized as time went on. It dived further and further into that whole politicization realm, and this is where it has ended.
Has been scrapped now.
PM scraps committee to probe divers deaths. Three-member commission of inquiry.
This issue was indeed
very politicized. It became more and more ended before it began. The committee outlined to investigate what led to the deaths of four divers at the Quarry Filtration realm. Facility has been quashed.
This is where it has ended.
Speaking during conversations with the Prime Minister on Tuesday, Dr. Keith Rowley, three-member commission of inquiry, said he instructed the Minister of Energy to cancel the committee before the surprise resignation yesterday. After the surprise resignation yesterday of member Eugene T. As the Prime Minister said, instead, he will be calling during conversations with the member commission of inquiry. This is quoting from our Prime Minister. I have today instructed the Minister of Energy on behalf of the Minister of Energy to cancel the committee. That was made public, and therefore there would be no five-man committee of the experts that were made public around yesterday. He said the foreign experts said they were also no longer needed for the investigation. And do you even blame them? Really? Do you blame them? From our Prime? Would you blame them for not wanting to be a part of that investigation anymore? Can you imagine? Think of this coming from the perspective of a foreign expert out there. You're out there doing your thing, professionally qualified in whatever you're professionally qualified in, and you're hoping that these things, give you a little extra notch on your CV. This is a nice little addition to your portfolio, to your resume. And okay, Shell asks you, you work for Shell, you're working for Shell out in South America. There, good night, Judd Mohammed. You're working for Shell or BP out in South America or something, and they pull you, there was an accident in Trinidad, and they're asking for experts to, come and investigate on behalf of their state and, find a conclusion to put the families at ease as they mourn. And you think, okay, this is a good opportunity, this is well within my field. This is well within my field. And you say yes. But then you reach to Trinidad and you recognize this thing is a political storm. If you enter on this side, from the moment you enter this investigation, it seems like an accusation is going to be leveled at you that you are dealing with the government. You are in cahoots with the government. And this is something, if you are a private sector person, you're working in the private sector, you aren't interested in this. This isn't something that you want out there. You don't want it to seem like you have a political lean. You don't want to make political enemies. If you wanted to do that, you could just join the political arena. These are people working in the private sector. Obviously, they don't want this kind of negative attention on them. Ryan IR said, there need not be an investigation as Osh has all power to do so. What's the complications in that? I am not sure. Osh says the Occupational Health and Safety Board says they are and they have launched an investigation. However, I guess people don't have a lot of faith in that organization because they do seem like sometimes they aren't quite up with it. There, people want something more substantive than that. So I guess that's where the investigation was coming in. Richard Glubman says, and the opposition just opposing for opposing's sake. Now, there's a kind of balance in that. There's a balance in that I really do understand. Now, this, I think, starting from this point, I understand that this is why we end up with the kind of people we end up with very often in the public service. People don't want to go there because you put your reputation on the line, you put yourself out there for slander. These people are involved in politics. Mudslinging is their game. They're already covered in mud and they are fine with that. You see, you don't need a pristine reputation to be a politician. Nearly all politicians have a tarnished reputation. That seems to be a requisite for the job sometimes. So they're fine with that. They tarnish each other's reputation constantly. They are okay with that. But if you're in the private sector, this is something that can have a negative impact on you. You aren't just going out there to let these people lambast you. And they are politicians. They have political support behind them. You are not a politician. You may have your family, who might support you. If you end up in a back and forth with a politician, you are very likely, you stand a high chance of losing a certain side of that. Although you might be right, they have enough followers to come on your page or come outside your house and etc, etc, etc. And some people don't want to get into that, so they stay away. And that in the first place is why we end up with certain kind of characters inside of politics in the first place. It's already a difficult place to exist, so you're already filtering out a certain kind of person. So when you're seeing certain kind of brash, tough characters, when you are seeing certain kind of brash, tough characters out there inside of politics, and you're wondering, why are we always ending up with these kind of rude, disrespectful men who seem like they always have a chip on their shoulder and are so crass? That's why. That's what politics ekes out of people. Richard says, someone asked me today, how is it possible for the PP to be the worst government and the worst opposition? It's a skill. It is a skill. You know, so often I see if the opposition, they're spearheading protests for water in certain communities, and I appreciate that. That's great. That's great. You're doing your work in that community. But one of the signs is call election now, call election now. And then the next sign says, we haven't had water for the last 25 years. And in my mind, I'm thinking, don't you know that the same people standing next to you, protesting with you about call elections now, were in power within those 25 years and you still didn't have water? The whole call election now kind of scheme, anytime you see something bad happens, is kind of ridiculous. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Election was what? Last year or year before? And they lost. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago and they still lost. Rest us. Anyway, let's go further into what the Prime Minister had to say there. Because even before they had done the job, the population had been so riled up into not accepting any work that they have done that it is a waste of time now, he said. We have to cancel that and we are going to have a commission of inquiry because apparently that is what would satisfy, he said. Like Energy Minister Stuart Young, Rowley blamed the United National Congress for its attack on TIA as the reason behind the collapse of the committee. He argued he would have to look for people from Mars just to satisfy the UNC. Where are we going to find people to serve on this committee? Who in this country, in the energy sector, are we going to find? An energy sector that is owned by the government and has been consistently under government control. Where are you going to find them, he asked. This was the point I said last night. I believe someone told me in the live that he was mentioning that same thing while he was speaking. The energy sector is owned by the government. It has been run by the government for the most part for the last, 5-6 decades? Where are you going to get a local expert inside the energy sector that has never had any dealings with any kind of government. That is ridiculous. And I was looking to find out what exactly was the reason the opposition had such a problem with the selected person. And part of the reason I seem to have stumbled upon that the opposition was talking about was the Stuart Young represented, while he was a lawyer, well, he is a lawyer, but while he wasn't in government, he represented one of these men in court, so now this man is disqualified from working on this committee. What kind of ridiculous thing is this? Are you saying that anyone that has ever had any interaction with any political figure can never serve on anybody, not anybody, anybody, and seem like they're independent and neutral? That is ridiculous. It does not work like that. The issue was overly sensationalized and politicized. That is true. That is very true. He said, according to the UNC, with a commission of inquiry, people can be called and summoned and cross-examined, Rowley said the government will still seek out international expertise. Nobody in Trinidad and Tobago who know anybody in the government, if your grandmother, cousin, then neighbor is involved, it's to cover up, he said. In Tia's personal statement of resignation, he hinted at that, and we know that that's basically why the opposition did what they did. I don't like that. I don't like that. There are professionals who worked outside the country and returned home. Use them. Here's the thing. If any of these professionals ever worked on contract jobs, and here's the thing, very likely if you are a professional that worked outside of Trinidad and returned home, either you are a retiree or you are working in the contract business. Very likely you may be working in the contract business within the energy sector. A lot of these people work as consultants still. So if that be the case, that they are working as a consultant somewhere or they did a contract job somewhere, then according to the logic used here, they would again be disqualified. There's no way using that kind of reasoning that if you are friendly or if you have ever had any business relations or any kind of friendly relations with the government or any political figure, you are not neutral. That just does not work. It is insane. It cannot work. The energy sector, the energy chamber said the same thing, just like Amcham said also. Hey Ria, I see Ria is jumping some likes inside there. I thought you were doing your own live. Welcome in everyone. Make sure to hit that like button if you have just joined. Make sure to double tap that screen if you are over on TikTok. However, you hit that like button over on Instagram. And if you are on YouTube looking at this live, or if you are looking at it on the review, hit that like button. Also drop a comment if you have something to say. As usual, I do read the comments. So do say what you have to say and hit that like button. And as usual, anyone missing anything out of the lives, you can feel free to go over to my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer on YouTube. Nathan Springer YouTube. Do subscribe over there, and you can catch most of the lives. If you missed anything, you can catch up over there. Wonderful. Let's get on with the news even further in on this. Now, there was a commercial diver, the Guardian got as their new expert now, who had some things to say. And I find the way how the commercial diver put it, it seems like a heavy bit of culpability would be on the contractor. However, if, as this commercial diver put it, is the case, then there isn't only culpability on the contractor, there'll be culpability on anyone hiring these contractors who are working like this. I'm not saying this is necessarily this specific contractor, but let's see what the expert had to say. Good night, Chiny Douglas. Good night, Super Mario. What's the good? Good night, Ryan IR. Commercial diving instructor speaks out. TNT's loan. Let me read that first line again. TNT's loan meaning only, one, from alone, a loan, one, lonely, one and only, commercial diving instructor Dr. Glenn Chetty says it's time to regulate the diving industry as divers are being exploited and killed too frequently because of having improper equipment for dangerous underwater jobs. Now, I'm unsure. He said here divers are killed too frequently. I don't know because I read the news, but I'm not familiar with many other cases. Do divers really die that regular in Trinidad and Tobago? Do commercial, is it a regular occurrence where we see commercial divers dying? Yes, he did, Nisi 1321. The contractor did lose his son in that very same incident. So that was something I was saying. I was mentioning this to someone else when I was speaking to them about the back and forth between Paria and the contractor. They need to be very careful about what they say even in that. Even if they are correct, you need to bear in mind that in this case, the contractor could be seen as someone who proverbially has way more skin in this game than you. He lost a son in this incident. So it's not just he is speaking as an outsider here. He's not of the contractor that is obviously has some hurt to feel inside of this. And the assumption would be logical that the contractor would not have willingly done something that would have put his son's life in danger. That would be a fair assumption to make. So you really would have to be careful how you do that kind of cross communication and reply to the contractor if you are Paria. That's what I'm thinking here. But it seems like finally their communication department has reawoken from their slumber, so they are answering much better now. Dr. Chetty is a retired Association of Diving Instructors International Supervisor and a retired offshore supervisor instructor with the Certified International Marine Contractors Association and Divers Certified Board of Canada. Now, for example, this guy here obviously did some kind of diving work. He may have done some kind of contracting work out there. If he ever did anything in the local energy sector, almost surely he would have been paid somehow from the government. So using that kind of reasoning, even this guy would be disqualified from any committee and being a fair arbiter in any one of these committees. Holding up 2 commercial diving hard hat helmets, which are equipped to provide surface air, Dr. Chetty said if the 4 divers were wearing the proper gear, they would still be alive today. One of the helmets cost over $60,000. Dr. Chetty said because there's no authority or agency to regulate the diving industry, contractors were taking the cheap way out and sending uncertified scuba divers with scuba gear to do dangerous underwater jobs. He said Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited also has questions to answer for not playing a proactive supervisory role in diving operations. Here's the thing. If the case is that the proper equipment for this is not being used, and they're doing that to cut corners and save money however they're receiving money, that's what this professional, our only diving instructor in the country, our only commercial diving instructor in the country is saying this, that they were not using the proper gear. There's gear that was supposed to be connected to air outside. There's a surface air line that you would never be away from, you'd never be locked out from getting air. That's what the professional and expert says. But he also highlights this fact, and I think this is very pertinent, that if this is the case that they were using substandard equipment and substandard training, then the people who hire them to do that, should also face some consequences too. It's like in Trinidad and Tobago. We know in Trinidad and Tobago that very regularly some people hire what we would call pipers to do some dangerous work out there. They would hire a piper and hire the piper to go climb a coconut tree, and the piper there would not have any safety equipment and they would be risking their lives oftentimes. So if now you hire someone knowing that they are not going to take the proper safety precautions, and then they come onto your property, climb climb your coconut tree, and then some kind of accident happens and they become injured or harmed from it. Won't you have consequences to face? Yes, it's also partly their fault for not using the proper safety equipment also. But if you hired them knowing that's how they did what they did, or not paying enough attention to know how they did what they did, then you also have consequences and answers to questions to answer too. Exactly, Nisi. If I hire a piper to go and deal with those jeps, with the maribone over in my garden, there are several nests there. It's a dangerous extraction process. If I hire someone to do that and they go and get themselves injured because they didn't use the right equipment, that's partially my fault too. I have consequences to pay for that. I have questions to answer. And that's how it seems like this may pan out in the end. But here's the thing. Where is it exactly that you would see that line between someone risking something that is an unwise risk on their part and someone risking something that is a criminal offense on their part? Where would that line be? And that's, I don't know. I honestly don't know. And I guess this now would be where this whole commission of inquiry, and I believe the police commissioner said there is an investigation going on, and the OSH board said there is an investigation going on. So I suppose they would be attempting to answer these questions. But I think that's where the question, that's an important question there. There obviously seems to be some undue risk that was taken, and it could be because, as the expert says here, that helmet costs upwards of $60,000. But if that's the case, is it an illegal risk or just a dangerous risk? And who would it be illegal for? Who would face the criminal consequences if it is indeed illegal? Is it the diver's choice if he chooses to go into the water with that? Is it the supervisor there who allowed it? Is it the contractor who wrote off on this? Is it the person who hired the contractor knowing this is how the contractor was going to do their job? Interesting questions to answer. But will you be really honest about the blame onto you? Let's say you hire someone for a little PG. Will you give them helmets, safety boots, and gloves? I am not sure. You see, in this case, it's not up to the main company to give them the safety equipment. It's up to the contractor to provide that, very likely. But it's up to the main company to make sure that they do indeed have that there. So it's like, let's say my coconut tree example. I have a couple coconut trees in my yard. I do actually have a couple coconut trees in my garden growing. They aren't bearing yet, but in due time. Yes, if I have a couple coconut trees in my yard, and I hire H and Sons Coconut Pickers Limited to come pick coconuts by me. H and Sons Coconut Pickers Limited. Now, I see H and Sons pull up, and they pull up in an old van, and they don't even have a ladder. They just come with rope and short pants and a cutlass. And they say, yeah, boy, we come to see about the coconut. And I allow them in my yard and allow them to go on my tree. So it's up to them to provide the ladder and whatever else they were supposed to have. But if I allowed them to come in and do the job, knowing that they didn't have all the requisite safety equipment, who is at most fault there? And if it reaches to the matter of liability in court, who is liable? I was reading recently about the El Pecos explosion, and some people are winning some cases out of that. So the guy who was doing the delivery of the gas, he won some hundred thousands, I believe, from that, and he won it from the gas supplier. He won it from the gas supplier because there was a leak in the hose apparently that may have caused that. And the gas supplier was supposed to know that their equipment was up to scratch. They were supposed to know that. That's on them. And this didn't happen in their yard. It didn't happen while they were doing something in their yard directly to do with them. It happened while they were attempting to deliver gas to a restaurant somewhere. Who knows where, if something could have happened in between there, but still, the main company still had to hold liability for that. Now, to be fair to the divers who did pass, he mentioned this, our only professional, our sole diving trainer, commercial diving trainer, did mention that he trained both Faisal Kurban and underwater welder Rishi Nagasa, who were part of the team. So the people who were there, at least two of the divers who were there were trained by this man himself. So they had qualified divers in that team too. So that's just a bit to make sure to factor in there. That's just a bit to make sure you factor in there when thinking about that. But there really are some interesting questions to answer here. And I honestly think that it does need that kind of investigation. People who are experts in the field, who know how to get the answers to these questions, people who know which questions are the right questions to ask, people who know who are the persons that should be answering these questions. Yeah. Only the scope of works would give us the missing details, Ryro864 says. I guess all of that should be seen in the investigation. All right. Now, the Prime Minister in his talk didn't just stay with that one announcement. He went on further to speak about the delivery of justice in TNT. Now, this I think is pertinent because of the back and forth that me and Rachel Gloveman regularly have when we speak about certain things, and for example in recent times, the bail law and the change in the bail amendment bill. And this has a lot to do, the problems in this, good night, blessed night to you too, Flame On. The problems in this have a lot to do with the length of time it takes for justice to happen in our country. That's the problem with the bail bill, really and truly. If the case was that when someone is charged by the next day, they have their day in court, then bail would be irrelevant. Personally, I might be okay with allowing no one to get bail if they got their case answered within one day. But the case is, Gerald Vincent, good night. But the case is that doesn't happen. It takes a long time. And that's why the arguments about bail become so pertinent in the first place. But the Prime Minister is agreeing with that also. PM, delivery of justice too slow in TNT. He is agreeing. The delivery of justice is too slow here. The delivery of justice in this country is unacceptably slow, says Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. And the Prime Minister says he knows he will be criticized for his remarks on this situation, but he is simply addressing the state of affairs in Trinidad and Tobago, and there's no sacred cow in this country. He said all of this while he was having his conversations with the Prime Minister the other night, and that's when this came out. Citing certain issues affecting its implementation, Rowley said he hadn't touched on the judicial system. Rowley added, I have been Prime Minister of this country for 7 years and I have given the judiciary priority, hundreds of millions of dollars in resources. He also noted that the waterfront complex, which was formerly occupied by the Parliament, was made available to the judiciary to have 75 additional courts. We've increased the number of masters and judges. We've removed from the judicial system 100 and something thousand motorcar cases. We're not going before judges and magistrates because a taillight was bad or somebody bounced your fender. We're giving people points now for breaking major roads. Hundreds of thousands of cases out of the system. We've done all that and many more. This was Dr. Rowley speaking about all that his government has done to try and tackle this issue inside of the issue of the length of time it takes for justice to go through inside of our country. Rowley said he will ask the Attorney General to report to the country on what the government has done. But he said he could say as a citizen that he could not see any acceleration in the delivery of justice in TNT. Now, I think I think this is a massive indictment on our judiciary. What's up with the night court idea? I don't know where that currently stands. Please 173. Suppose the reason the CJ and them wasn't to give murder accused bail is because they get fed up. Blame for the length of time people in jail. Who knows? Who knows? But I think this is a massive indictment on the entire judiciary, because the Prime Minister is saying that they have done basically all that they could do to speed up the process, and he is at his wit's end. He doesn't know well, he didn't say he doesn't know, but he's basically insinuating that they've tried all that is possible, all that they could think of, or something to that effect, and they haven't seen any progress done. He said the cabinet had done everything they could have done to facilitate it. So there must be something somewhere else. Where is that somewhere else? Rowley added, if people owe you money now, you know what they tell you? Take me to court now. Wow. He said the delay in the system, whatever the case or reason for such delay, is the best friend of a person who has to answer a charge. I don't totally agree, because if you have to answer a charge where you don't get bail, it isn't your best friend, because you have to sit in jail until that charge, you get your time in court. So the delay isn't always the best friend of people who have to face a charge. If you have to face a charge where you are not currently incarcerated, then you are fine with that. And I know that for a fact. If you are someone familiar with people around hotspot locations, you would know that many of these young men have court cases currently pending, and they're out there still making trouble. Many of the troublemakers out there currently have court cases pending, and they aren't worried because they know that court case might have another 20 years in it or something like that. By the time they have to actually answer to that court case, they are old people. While Rowley said he expected to get criticism, he's adjusting this because there's no sacred cow. The same way others in a separation of power could criticize the government, I am taking issue with this situation where the government has done everything we think we could have done in the resources available to us, and as a citizen, I am simply saying I am not seeing the benefits of what we have been investing in this system, and I say no more tonight. And I think until the judiciary comes and says their counterpoint to this, which I'm sure they will, until they do, this point stands. If the Prime Minister of the parliamentary branch of our government, bear in mind, we were talking about that last night when we were speaking about the bail amendment bill and the ruling as pertaining to that there is that separation of power where what the judiciary is in charge of, the parliamentary branch shouldn't be able to tamper with. There's that separation of power. So if on this side, the parliamentary side is saying we have done everything in our power to supply all that is needed for this side, the judiciary, to function in top form, the question is, why aren't they? And that, I think, is a very fair question. Why not? What is missing? What do you want? What do you want, judiciary? What do you want that would make you function at that top level? Because apparently the parliament is saying they have supplied you with everything they can. So is it that the entire system is too flawed to function? I think some kind of honest perspective needs to be given from that. But, I don't actually think, to add a little humor to some of this, I don't actually think that people who are owed money just say sue me now or carry me to court now, because there are some people who are being carried to court. I was looking at this case. I just popped up upon it and I found it to be an interesting, funny case. I can tell you with certainty Richard Glabman says that lawyers are the main reason for the delay. Well, what can be done about that? Is there anything that can be done? If they are indeed the main reason for the delay, what can be done to move them out of being able to make such delays possible? What can be done? Carpenter being sued $18,000 for failing to build kitchen cupboards. Now, I just thought I had to put some humor in at the end of this. Now, it isn't really fully humorous if you are the one facing these kinds of things, but this is actually something very regular in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm reading it to let you know that it can reach to the courts. If you are on the side of being a perpetrator of actions like this, be warned, you may face court. And if you are on the side of getting these things done to you, be a little more cautious and know that there is redress in the court system. A project manager is now taking legal action against a Barrackpore carpenter who failed to build his kitchen cupboards after he paid him an $18,000 down payment. After several failed attempts to recover his money, Chris Dookie sent a pre-action protocol letter to the Raj Ramsaran, who responded through his attorney and promised to refund him. He also promised to pay his legal costs. However, the carpenter failed to meet the deadlines for the payment. In the legal letter sent by the owner and his attorney, they stated Ramsaran took measures to build the cupboards and charged the client $30,000. Ramsaran, he said, that's the carpenter, indicated that the cupboards would be supplied and installed on January 24th and requested $15,000 as a down payment. Dookie paid him the down payment on the same day. However, they said that on January 15th, Ramsaran contacted her client indicating that his machine broke down and requested a further $3,000 to repair the machine so there would be no further delay. You see that? From the time you see that extra added on to the down payment, you're supposed to already see that red flag waving. That's already that red flag waving. A down payment of $15,000, boy, my machine break down and you have to send an extra. All right. Okay. However, subsequent to that, Dean stated that Dookie made several phone calls to him to visit his workshop to inspect the progress of the works, but they all went unanswered. On January 24th, his wife called Ramsaran from another telephone number and he replied. She indicated that her husband was at his workshop to see the completed kitchen cupboards. In the letter, the lawyer said that the carpenter told Dookie's wife that no works had commenced to date. Bear in mind, January 24th was the deadline for the installation of these cupboards. And on January 24th, he is saying no work has been done to date. Where are we now? Dookie immediately requested that he return the $18,000, but the lawyer stated that the carpenter requested until January 30th to complete the cupboards, and Dookie agreed. That is bad business right there also. Don't agree to that. Dookie, according to his attorney, was then contacted by Ramsaran on January 28th to see the progress of the work. However, the attorney said when Dookie went to the workshop, he saw that only 5 feet of cupboards were built out of plywood, and Ramsaran requested a further week to have the works completed. However, Dookie refused to give him any more time and pointed out that the agreement was for the cupboards to be built from teak wood. So you getting your plywood cupboards that was supposed to be teak. You paid out there. You were paying for your prime teak cupboards. You were all set. You're done ready. You're ready. You already know where you're going to put what, and you're done. The kitchen remodeling is done. The backsplash finish. The tile work finish. You're getting marble countertop guys to come in. They give you a nice little waterfall end to the cupboard on that end. You're just waiting for this guy to come with your teak finish. You could already envision it. Nice. Prime. And you go in his workshop and see 5 feet of plywood cupboards. See 5 feet of plywood cupboards. And he's saying he need another week. However, Dookie refused to give him any more time and pointed out that it was supposed to be tea. Ramstrand gave Dookie a written note indicating that the $18,000 would be refunded by February 4th. But on that day, Ramstrand indicated that he would pay the money on the following day. The next day, he requested a further extension to January. What? But Ramstrand then indicated that he was unable to refund the monies. Wow. So homeboy seems like he spent like he spent the money. The 18,000 seems like it isn't anywhere to be found. He agreed to pay 18,000 as well as his legal costs, which then stood at $800. Ramstrand promised to make a partial repayment of $10,000 on February 18th at Dookie's attorney's office and the rest accounting to $8,800 on February 23rd. His attorney indicated that Ramstrand was not prepared to waste judicial time and would be paying them from money he expected to earn from woodworking jobs in February. But if this guy is doing woodwork with that kind of woodworking behavior, then he mightn't have much money to get to repay anything. Wow. 30K for a teak full kitchen cupboard set sounds suspicious from the start. Where you find it sounds cheap, that sounds a little cheap. Well, maybe it was a bit short, maybe it wasn't a full extensive thing. What about the cache of weapons found in Trinidad? Was those weapons here to send to Ukraine? No, sir. Those weapons were not meant for Ukraine. Those weapons were meant for Trinidad and Tobago. And that is a very suspicious case, you know. Where they found those weapons, that cache of weapons that was recently found. They found, was it 17 high-powered rifles inside of a barrel. Those barrels that you get those remittances from, the people away, family away, send barrels down to their family down here. And apparently someone sent a barrel filled with guns. And they sent it to a warehouse in Central right here, near to me in here in Central. And the strange thing is, ozxroad.ff, the strange thing is, that very same warehouse, they found another set of guns there last year. I mean, what's going on? That's a little strange. zxrow.ff, you type that again, you are getting blocked. Take a little silence there, sir. Take a little silence. Take a little silence. Yeah. Imagine how many other warehouses cleared theirs on the same day. True. But like even last year, I was wondering with these cases, like, can't you wait to see who comes and picks up the gun? I mean, if it's a barrel sent from a sender, there's supposed to be a receiver, or it was a customs bond. Okay. There's supposed to be a receiver. Can't you wait to see who comes to pick it up? I'm just wondering. I mean, I'm no police. I suppose Richard is the professional here. He would be able to inform us if they could wait and why they didn't wait. Isn't it possible to track this to wherever its final destination is, so we'd get more than just the guns in the barrel? Because I think getting the guns in the barrel is inconsequential. That doesn't really do anything. Same day, drugs was found in Swissport Customs Bond too. Interesting. The thing I regularly note in Trinidad is how often, like, even in the drugs fines, the main drug of criminality around the world, is cocaine, for the most part, especially in this side of the world. Yet still, so often in Trinidad, they only make marijuana busts and make much ado about it. They take 50 officers and go 5 miles into the forest to find 50 plants and burn them. And yet still, cocaine addicts are still getting their cocaine every single day. As David Rudder sang in the Madman's Rant, somebody cleaning up all of the grass, but somebody is letting all the cocaine pass. Strange, isn't it? Strange. Yeah. That's how the TTPS does get upgrades. All right. That's all I have for now for you folks over on Instagram and you over on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. It was nice. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you are entertained, informed, or educated. And I will see you again tomorrow for the next Mindful Live.